evening, meat suits. Welcome back to Read It and Weep, a podcast about movies and friendship. This is season 5, Kevin Bacon's Exquisite Corpse. And we're just 4 friends from our time in jail, hanging out, playing a long movie-watching game. I'm your host, Alex Falcone. I'm recording, as always, in North Koreatown, Los Angeles, and I'm joined today by my good friends. First up, he's Anthony Lopez, part 2. On Twitter, he's in Southeast Portland. And is this your first time being robbed, Anthony? Because you're doing great. It's Anthony Lopez.
Alex, it's great to be here. Do you always need to wear the shirt that says podcast host when you podcast? I feel like it's kind of self-defeating, and we get it, Alex. We get it.
I might start doing it. That's a good idea, actually. Also, joining us today, he's the co-host of the Old Gamers Almanac podcast. He's from the woods of Brooklyn. He's vertically integrated himself, diversified and shit. And now he's into the occasional grand larceny and home invasion, shit like that. It's Hunter Donaldson.
Yo, I sleep in a trunk now. I just sleep in a trunk. Comfortably in the trunk. I like to lay there.
You made it seem romantic.
It's never looked so good as these people laying in this particular trunk in this movie.
I mean, I assume it's one of those, when they do a tunnel shot and you pull back and you see that it's a wall and they've just built a little tunnel.
No. Actually, it's a real trunk they're in. That's just what George Clooney looks like when he's in the trunk.
Man, what a hot trunk guy. Also joining us in Northern California, he's a protege of mine, ranked number 32 in the federal prison system. It's Ezra Fox.
Out of 20.
I assume he meant fighters, but I just like that you're just we're just keeping track. Who's the best boy in all of the prisons?
Yeah, is it graded on a curve or something? Am I going to be prison valedictorian?
No, it's just one guy's opinion. It's just Eddie's opinion. Eddie's
dude, Eddie's
rankings.
prison power rankings come out every Thursday. Everyone can't wait.
Everybody's trying to be so nice to Eddie all the time.
It was a fun way to get yourself shanked, presumably. Before we start today,
you got to climb the ladder.
I want to thank
34 want to be 33.
Oh, yeah.
All the way up.
Yeah.
Before we start the show, I'd like to thank a couple of meat buddies. First up, Mira. They've been with us since 2018, and we can't thank them enough for it. And also, Destiny, who we're going to hear a little bit more about later if you stick around. If you'd like to join them and help us keep this show limping down the tracks in the fog like a injured ghost train, go to Metreon.com, and we really appreciate everybody who supports the show. We can't thank you enough, even if we do nothing to show our gratitude and the quality of podcasts we produce. Okay, quick, segment 1. 2 things we need to cover this week on the news. First, personal news from Ezra and I. So Ezra and I launched our new project this morning to much fanfare and some significant embarrassment. So,
oh, yes.
You may remember this a few weeks ago. I mentioned this in the show. So Ezra and I had, we made a little business account for the money we made from when our novel went viral a couple months back. We set aside a percentage of the money to do something silly on TikTok with, since we got this money doing something silly on TikTok. So we had a little, we took advice. We asked people to suggest stuff. And the 2 most common things people suggested were give it to charity or give it to me. And I will say, it was about 10-1 give it to me versus give it to charity. But those were the 2 most common ideas.
But I mentioned before, you went and bought Twitter with it, right? Yeah.
I was going to buy Twitter, but it's just too many bots. I just don't.
That's true.
I like the bots. It's too many humans. That's my problem.
Too many the humans and the bots are the problem.
Yeah. It's all of the tweets. That's what really drives me crazy.
I thought it was that there was not enough bots for you, right? You wanted more bots.
I want more bots.
I want it just to be bots talking to each other, sharing disinformation to each other, falling for it.
If it's all bots, then we can all just not look at it. That does seem kind of nice.
That's true. It could be all bots already, and we're still looking at it. You know what I mean?
All bots.
It could be an oops all bots situation where everybody's just looking at this thing and it's not real.
So we had a couple $100. We wanted to do something silly with it, and because this is Ezra's influence. Obviously, he wanted it to be joyful. He wanted it to be
blame it on Ezra before you share the embarrassing part of the story.
Oh no, okay, I'll get the embarrassing part. Ezra wanted it to be positive, so that's why we ended up. So we came up with this idea. I did mention on the show a couple weeks ago that somebody had suggested we hire a clown to follow Mitch McConnell around and wave at him from a safe distance.
See, that was actually a good suggestion.
Such a good suggestion. I mentioned it's out of my price range, and but I did get enough people excited about that idea that maybe we should do a separate Patreon to just fund the Mitch McConnell clown, because people want this idea to happen. But here's what we settled on. So Ezra and I came up with this idea. We're like, because we could combine the two ideas of give it to charity and give it to me by giving it to you in very small amounts if you promise to use it to be nice to somebody else. So we settled on what we're calling the teeny tiny grant. So the teeny tiny grant is you can apply on the website, teenytinygrant.org. And if you apply there, you tell us what you're going to do with it. And it's no strings attached. At one string, you have to do something nice for somebody else with it. We'll give you $11. You do something nice. You tell us what you want to do. And what we'll give you $11. That's the punchline. You get $11 to do something nice for somebody else. And so we launched this morning on TikTok and Instagram, and the response has already been incredible. It's actually, I don't know if you've looked yet, but we've got a couple hundred applications already, and they are. The disappointing thing is they're almost all great.
Like, yeah,
I saw really want to fund more than we can afford.
Someone wants like a little like crown for their little sister. Which is adorable. Someone wants a burrito for their friend who's having a tough time.
Yeah, there's a guy who's named Grant, which already I like, gives you an advantage if you're a small Grant. Grant is like coaching a third grade swim team and wants to buy them donuts, and I just love the idea of kids getting out of a pool and getting donuts from us. Anyway, they're all so wonderful and sweet, and I want to support all of them, and I don't think we can.
This thing is going to end up bankrupting you because you're going to end up putting a bunch of your own money in it because you're so involved.
I mean, look, if the two options are it bankrupts us or it blows up in our face, I'm going to go with the bankrupt us. I mean, that definitely is the better answer, is if I just spend all of my money helping people $11 a time. Okay, but here's the embarrassing part that I promise. So we launch it and we get one comment that's like, hey, I'm trying to go to the website and it only says $10. I'm like, that seems weird. And it turns out, instead of going to teenytinygrant.org, if you go to Teeny Tiny Grants with an S, someone else had the same goddamn idea, but they're giving away $10.
So now
it's like we invented Netflix and there was already Netflix.
Yeah, we just launched a Netflix the week after they went live and everybody liked it. So I can't believe we did not check. We only bought it without the S. And so anyway, no S, that's us. It's $11. If you're looking at an imposter who only wants to give you 10, well, more power to you. Get 10 also. But
it's so weird because why is it 11? Like that makes it seem like you knew about the first one. The fact that it's $1.
It does seem
like one of them. And the reason it's 11 is because it's dumber than 10. Because they're seeming to be like the other people, the $10 people seem like they're trying to be like really helpful. It's more about creative projects.
Well, wait, but did you know about them before you
launched?
No,
we found out after we launched. That's what I'm saying, is I didn't think to click on the one with S. We only bought the two domains with no S. And so it
seems fishy. It seems fishy.
I know,
like there's something
and
going
they only
on here.
launched like 2 months ago. Like it was recent. Like
no. I mean, you seem fishy.
I know. Like that's what I'm saying. It seems fishy, and we didn't. That's why I'm kind of like I'm actually kind of gutted.
So Ezra right now.
Ezra, of course, is great about it.
I really like it because it's like we wanted to bring silly mirth into the world, and we're willing to pay $11, and we got some for free, which is a bonus. Plus, you can get now $21 if you want, right? And it's kind of confusing. And I like the idea of any amount of money you want. There's a different website for that, right? So there's like a $9 grant. There's an $8 grant.
So if we launch a $9 grant, then we can both over and underdo them based on what you think is. Exactly. We're gonna prices right them into a corner.
We do a $1 also in case everyone busts.
Right, exactly, because everyone goes over. I mean, I do like the idea. Ezra thinks we should be friends with them.
Absolutely, we should be friends with them.
And I think we should burn them to the ground. I think we should trash talk and we should sue them.
Yes,
we should tell everybody that $10 is an embarrassingly small amount of money. No one would do a grant for $10
with $10. You need $10. Yeah.
What's going to pay for the tax? What's going to pay for the tax? You know what I'm saying?
Or a tip, right? Like I think, like a two
$1
lattes.
tip, Alex. Really?
Dude,
$1 tip.
Two lattes, $4.50 a piece. That's $9. You give a tip for each latte. That's $11.
Okay,
that's the right amount of money.
Okay.
If you get 10, you're under tipping.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Which is, I think, the problem because we're assuming 10 is how much this is going to cost. You got $1 extra.
Exactly. And you, of course, give it to the barista. That's
what
I
you
think.
should do.
The barista.
Right. Think of what if this? What if you tell people, if you want to do good and keep this good train going, you can take the $10 grant from the other people, donate it to you.
Oh
You'll
no!
add $1 to it,
Right.
and then re-gift it to somebody
Oh,
else.
I like this. Actually,
you know?
Ezra, we should definitely apply for a $10 grant.
Yeah.
Just
And-
use it for one person.
Oh my
'cause they said
God,
it's
you're
for
going to
creative
extend this by
project,
so much.
Our creative project is to extend your grant by 10%.
Wait. Okay. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm freaking out. But we're just talking about sending all the grant requests that you're getting to the $10 grant people, just kind of funneling that over.
No, that's funny. I was just saying I should apply for $10, get it, and then put it into my fund for the $11 grant. But I like your idea. We just forward our email to them.
You look at all these great pitches that people are giving you. You send them over to the $10 people, get the $10, add your one in that you contributed.
This is a way we can make this money go a lot further. I like that.
Yeah,
that's true.
You could do this forever this way.
Yeah.
These $10 people have made a huge mistake by being under your limit.
Instead of $50, or instead of doing maybe 50 grants, we could now do 500 grants.
You could do 500 grants.
Maybe 5,000 grants.
You have to do this. This is exactly the type of fraud that you need to be involved in.
Well, so if you have an idea at home for something you could do with $11, that would be nice for someone else.
Okay.
Or go to teenytinygrant.org if you would like $11. If you only want 10, you find the other one. You can do that. We might be just forwarding your email to them anyway. So teenytinygrant.org. I really appreciate. Okay, really quick. One more thing, Anthony. I am so interested to hear you actually explain this out loud. So you've been texting us about it, and I am still thoroughly confused. So please, for the rest of our news segment, the actual news in the movie world, it was Morbin time over the weekend. What is happening?
Well, it's been Morbin time for a few months now, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, so this weekend we got to see a studio misunderstand memes, go all in on them in a way we have not seen since Snakes on a Plane. That was the last time something like this happened, in which a studio.
But didn't that kind of work?
Snakes on a Plane fucking cratered. It left a big smoldering hole in the earth. Yes. But that was a movie that was. Oh, there's all these memes, all this hype. It's a joke everywhere. We're going to be printing money. And then everyone was like, we just like the jokes. What the fuck are you talking about? We're not going to watch that movie.
Why would we see the movie?
But we kind of got like a fun inverse flip of that this week with when people trolled Sony Pictures into re-releasing Morbius into theaters.
What is Morbius? I don't even know what this movie is.
It's a Jared Leto vampire movie, and it's associated with Spider-Man somehow.
It is Spider-Man's D-list villain. He's a vampire man. He's Dr. Morbius, the living vampire.
Vampire Man would have been a better name for the villain.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's almost that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're close.
But yeah, so Morbius, if you guys have not seen a movie in the last 2 years, you might not have seen the trailer for Morbius, but Morbius was the first trailer for Morbius came out in January 2020, and it just kept getting delayed because of COVID. So if you had seen a movie at all in the last 2 years, you probably saw a Morbius trailer attached to it. I saw the Morbius trailer 50 times over the last 2 years in theaters, just because it was on every movie you would go see.
And this is Sony. This is not Marvel. So this is still part of that crazy deal where they get to make a Spider-Man movies as long as they constantly make Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. So the thing with this is that like Sony was really, this is not connected to the MCU. Venom was a huge hit for them, but Venom's like dumb and weird and has become like an odd queer icon. So it built its own sort of steam. And like this movie, the main poster for Morbius says a new Marvel legend begins or something like that. Like they're really trying to trick people into thinking this is in the MCU.
This is the exact same poster as Venom.
Yes.
Yeah.
But without any of the fun or interesting stuff that Venom does, at least. And so
in the trailer, I think Jared Leto says, "I am Venom."
Yeah, he makes a joke.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Okay.
But yeah, so this movie was a mess and a really crazy development. There's a bunch of stuff in the trailers that aren't in the movie, like references to Spider-Man and Michael Keaton's character from the MCU, who is forced in at the very, very end of Morbius. instead of being a major role, but they like cut the movie to shit. But yeah, it was a very bad Sony Spider-Man movie, like almost all of their movies are.
Yeah.
It came out a few months ago. It did not do well. People weren't excited to go visit the doctor. You know, they weren't excited to see Dr. Morbius, MD, in his office of their local Cineplex. And the movie tanked, but because of, I think, you know, the years of people seeing trailers for it, it kind of getting talked about like it was so bad. It took on a life of its own. If you search Morbius on Twitter, you'll find a million memes, mostly around the idea of like it's Morbin time, or you know, like other weird references. You know,
or like I'm gonna morb out right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna morb out. Yeah, Morb heads unite. Morbius sweeps. You know, Morbius.
It's really just that Morbius is a really dumb name for
that Morbius
a character. Even a vampire.
Yeah,
it's a notably dumb name for a vampire character. That's wild.
It made $30 million opening weekend, but in Morb dollars, that's like 30 billion more bucks. So that's a lot of money. A lot of great memes that came from this. And
right. We still don't know the effects of long Morbius. Okay, yeah. I'm just looking at some memes.
Yeah. So someone at Sony saw these memes and was like, this must mean people love fucking Morbius.
Which is, by the way, this is like the best thing that's ever happened in my opinion.
Yeah, so like
this idea that Sony is like, we're doing so good.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe they had like a person whose job is to give them a graph of how many people have tweeted about each of their properties that day. They just counted the occurrences of the word Morbius and didn't bother to read the actual tweets, which are like, it's actually very funny that Jared Leto gets to be in the worst DC movie and the worst Marvel movie at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, so if you just only saw Morbius was related there on the graph, you're like, people are talking about
That's
Morbius.
A hit. Yeah. That's a hit.
This thing about
they're looking at it, they're like, no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, and the thing about the memes is that it's like so few people saw Morbius that you don't actually know if he actually says it's Morbin time in the movie, right? Like that people. Like no one saw the movie, so maybe he does say it's Morbin time. That's funny. That's a funny
like
idea.
Your curiosity, a key aspect of the story. Your curiosity is not enough to where you would go see this movie.
No,
double check whether he says it's Morbin
well, that's
time
the thing
not.
Is like I have seen the only thing I've seen of Morbius, the closest I've seen to the movie was I saw it how I believe the director intended it, which is I saw the whole movie in GIF form. There's a GIF of the entire movie you can find online.
Right.
But yeah, so Sony being kind of the weird out of touch movie studio thought like, oh my God, this must mean people love it. I think they thought they had like a Room-esque situation on their hands.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to release this movie and people are going to show up and they're going to scream, I'm going to morb throughout the whole thing and it's going to be fun.
I'm going to morb.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, again, the whole point was like that people were just dogging on this movie that was trying so hard, is really out of touch. And they did two things. One, they killed the meme by making Jared Leto do a joke about it when he was reading a script for Morbius 2 called It's Morbin Time, which killed the meme. But
not fun
if
anymore.
there is one person on the planet who would be more upset about having to do a meme post, it's Jared Leto, I think.
Sure.
So I do enjoy that. But
we did kind of win in that way.
Yeah, here's where it comes full circle, though. So they get Jared Leto in on the meme. They re-released the movie in 1,000 theaters over the weekend. And it made $58.
The first time, but they put the money in to re-release it.
Yes. Which, I mean, it's not like they're like resending out film prints, right? They're just resending out the digital keys for the film. So it was not like a huge thing, but it's just more the pie on the face when this weekend, Fantastic Beasts 3, a movie we've also talked about being a massive bomb on this podcast, which is currently available to watch on HBO Max right now, made more money than Morbius did this last weekend.
That's beautiful.
Get
so
bombed
beautiful.
a second time.
I think the problem though was right. It's like 1,000 theaters is not the way to nurture the room type situation, right? It's like you get like 5 theaters that are all like midnight showings, and like you get like the super morb fans, and like it can kind of be like you can kind of like thread the needle of like
you're not allowed in without a costume. There's like free popcorn or something. You make it a thing. But that would require them to understand that people hate this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And
no one
they hate
actually
the
wants
idea
to see
of the movie. Yeah.
But
they've not seen it.
So watching them get tricked into releasing this wide again, only for it to crater. There's a really great on change.org right now. There's a petition
this is so
to
good.
get Sony to re-release it, because the petition is, look, we were all busy last weekend, but we will definitely show up next weekend if you re-release it one more time.
Come on, one more time. We'll do. No, we're gonna see it this time, Sony.
Yeah.
We promise.
But yeah, I just love
the idea that you could just troll this movie company so hard multiple times is great.
Yeah, and they have like 3 other of these like C-tier Spider-Man villain movies in the works right now, which I do wonder if this is going to like affect, like right now they have Kraven the Hunter, who's another Spider-Man villain. Again, they're making another Spider-Man villain movie without Spider-Man in it. And that's supposed to come out like next year or the year after that. And I do wonder right now if they're like, maybe we should make it worse on purpose, and they're gonna try to capitalize on the Morbius thing. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch and grow sort of naturally, and then watch Sony take the bait and fall on their face again. It's just a delightful thing to watch happen.
I was lukewarm on it, but that change.org petition cracked me up this morning.
That's
that
really,
killed me.
really funny.
I'm sorry, we were all busy last weekend. Please do it again.
Yeah.
I'm signing it. I've signed it twice.
All right, so that's Morbin time. If it's back in theaters, we will not watch it again next week. Thanks for the update, Anthony.
Don't say that. We
might be able to.
Sony, we promise.
Yeah, we'll go.
Sony, we'll go. Sony, we promise. Just bring one more time. Let me clear my schedule.
If they do put it in theaters again, Anthony, I think you should go on our behalf at least, just to report on the empty theater.
You might say it's Morbin time. It could be in there. No one can really be sure.
No one's seen the movie. No one knows.
I don't think he would say that. I think he would say it's Dr. Morbin time. It's not Dr. Morbin. He's got his doctorate. Okay, we're good. Thank you. That's a great update. I appreciate it. Let's move on. We got a game to play. All right, it's time for segment 2 of the game. This week, we watched the film Out of Sight, the 1998 American crime comedy film directed by Steven Soderbergh and written by Scott Frank, adapted from Elmore Leonard's 1996 novel of the same name, starring, of course, Mr. George Clooney, Jennifer Lopez, Ving Rhames, Don Cheadle, Dennis Farina, Albert Brooks, and most importantly, uncredited Michael Keaton, who was also in Batman last week.
I mean, this movie also stars... This is one of those films that it's just a murderer's row of actors, even small parts of people who would go on to be some of the biggest and most successful actors of all time. Like Viola Davis has like one scene in this movie. Yeah. Don Cheadle is obviously went on to be huge. Successful.
What's funny about Don Cheadle is that I'm used to seeing Don Cheadle as being the funny guy in a serious action movie.
Yeah,
and in this one, he's the serious guy in a funny action movie.
I think he's kind of... Isn't he supposed to be a little funny, though?
Yeah,
he's kind of funny, right?
Occasional things, right? Like could fall in Sling Sharp.
Yeah. But mostly he seems like he's very serious. And anyway, just kind of a fun... It was like a Don Cheadle flip. That's what I thought of it.
Luis Gomez, Kathleen Kenner, Steve Zahn is hilarious in this. Ving Rhames.
Samuel Jackson cameo?
Samuel Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, briefly Sam Jackson? What was that about?
Yeah, it was great.
Luis Guzman, yeah. Very fun.
Incredible cast. Just a stacked cast in this film.
The Anne Lewis one, I didn't realize we had seen her before in RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
She's Murphy's partner.
Yeah. Wow.
And
wow.
I mean, all of this is like less impressive to me when I was remembered that Steven Soderbergh made Ocean's 11 like 2 years later, which is like action comedy with everybody famous.
This is wild. This run that he goes from 98 to like 2000 is
incredible.
insane.
Yeah, I was gonna try to bring that up, but yeah, this between like it kicks off with this. He does the Limey. The year after that, he's nominated for Best Director twice in 1 year. He does Aaron Brockovich and Traffic, and immediately follows that up with Ocean's 11. Like all those movies are like pretty okay. I think Out of Sight is probably my favorite of those. Traffic's really good, but like what's amazing about Traffic has been ripped off so much. Like he kind of starts it in this, but like the Steven Soderbergh thing of like every country having its own color scheme and like a gel filter over it is something that like all movies do that nowadays. Like any movie that takes place in like the Middle East, it's always like a gold or yellow filter over it. Or Mexico is the same way. Detroit is always blue. But like Steven Soderbergh really kind of like pioneered that. He's one of like the most interesting filmmakers.
I guess this just feels so much like Ocean's 11, and Ocean's 11's like there's a few things going on, but one of the things is we hired all of the actors that were available. And so this feels like, of course it's a murderer's row. Steven Soderbergh's thing is hiring all of the good actors at one time.
Calling everybody and being like, are you free?
Yeah.
Like, do you have anything right now?
At this point, though, he could still not like make high budget things, right? So this is what makes this, I think, especially impressive.
Yeah, this is like his calling code breakthrough movie. Like Sex, Lies, and Videotapes was obviously like in the late 80s. But like Steven Soderbergh's also one of those guys who goes from he's like the ultimate one for you, one for me type of director. But it's usually like one for you. Then I'm going to make 4 movies I shoot on an iPhone, all with non-actors. And I'm going to shoot it real fast. He's just, if you look through Steven Soderbergh's IMDb page, he is just so incredibly prolific. He's retired like multiple times. He keeps coming back. He does like his last several films have been shot almost exclusively using like phones. And like he doesn't have a lot of his movies nowadays. He doesn't have any crew. He does everything by himself. That's the way he like keeps his budgets down, keeps stuff down. He like there's like 5 people who work with him on the back end and the actors, and he like sets up all the lighting and everything, shoots it on a phone, is recording, having someone else record audio. He's just such a fascinating, weird guy who then also goes and does these huge blockbusters with a million famous actors and huge studio budgets behind it. He is just such a interesting. I think he probably hits more than he misses. But I mean, when you take that many swings, like that's going to happen. Right? He's such a, like I said, incredibly prolific, fascinating filmmaker.
So I don't know anything about this, but I also need to say first. I need to summarize it for people who haven't seen it. But before that, Ezra, this is your pick. Why are we watching? Why are we watching Out of Sight this week?
So I mean, like, gets me where I want to go, which is setting me up, setting this up for the best movie ever. Obviously, Endgame. 1 move away now. It's so close. You can taste it.
1 move away to multiple actors, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You get Sam Jackson. You get Don Cheadle. Presumably another one because everyone's in it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I saw this right when it came out. This felt really formative to me at the time. Like
great.
This is why you rob banks, right?
So, I mean, like no one made me do it, but a movie did make me do it. So
well, it's definitely why you always leave the engine running, no matter where you go. Right?
It's not good for the environment, but it's worth it.
I got electric. No, I mean, there's so many moments like this that really felt like deep in there, basically, where I just remembered a lot of it. I feel like maybe I've seen it 2 or 3 times since that first watch. But I mean, I kind of realize it now. It's like this is basically a rom-com. It's just with the trappings of like it's a male acceptable kind of version of it, basically. So it's like it's like you got to meet cute. It's like it's about this romance between the two of them, but like the outside of it is like all this like dude acceptable crime stuff that's pretty fun. I always loved, I think, Elmore Leonard. I was coming off of, I think, really liking Get Shorty before that. I think for the most part, this holds up pretty well for me.
I think this movie rules.
Yeah, there's some parts where it's like some of the dialogue bits where it's like, this is, I don't feel like this line would still have made it in here anymore. But on the whole, I mean, the like the core actors, it's really good. The way the I guess asynchronous telling of it, I guess with the flashbacks, I think is also really good. Like it all moves super well. still a big fan of it.
Yeah, this is the type of movie that like I watch and like I really love it, but a part of me is like I'm sort of depressed after it's over because they just don't make movies like this anymore. Like they still make, like, in terms of like big theatrical release, a movie with movie stars that's based off like a nice novel. It's very sexy, it's fun, it's adventurous, and it's just like these are like the middle tier movies that really do not get released anymore. It's big prestige movies or it's comic book superhero stuff, and that's all that gets released in theaters. You don't get these down the middle.
So we talked about
crime
this before
capers anymore.
We used to call 1994 the year of movies, but there was that 99% Invisible, I think, that I talked about, which was 1998 was actually the year of the most movies being greenlit because of it was like a couple years after multiplexes just started getting built everywhere. And so they just had 1 million screens. And so every movie theater needed a ton of movies to fill all of their screens. So like it makes sense that you would say that about a 1998 film, because this was a year when they were just making all the films.
Mm-hmm. All the movies all the time. Yeah. I don't understand what happened to all those. What are all those screens doing now?
They're showing the same movie at different, like 10 minutes after. Seriously, like all of the
screens of Doctor Strange. That's what they're doing now. They're showing Doctor Strange on every screen. Every 10
minutes. They just built one giant room for Doctor Strange to morb out on, and 1,000 people can watch one movie.
It's just now when you go to the movie theater, you're like, oh, I can watch this at 7, 7:10, 7:25, 7:30, 7:45.
That's the variety. That's the spice of life.
Except never when I want to see a movie at 8 o'clock. Have I complained about this to you guys before?
8 a.m. or p.m.?
You can never see movies at 8. Movies are always at 6:45 when you're still eating dinner, or at 10:15. Why? Like the time when a movie would be nice to see, it's almost impossible to see it, get a showtime.
That's 100% true, and I'm not going to pull up anything to check if any movies start.
No, this is legitimately true.
No, you're right. There's no movie anywhere.
7:30, 8:30 is almost never played, and I assume that it's because you want to be done by midnight, so you have to have a 10 o'clock show, and if you count backwards, you just need to have it be earlier than 8 to get all those runs in the same night. But the time when I want to see a movie is almost always the time that is like, oh, we show this at 6 and at 9:30.
Right.
And
but
which is a little late for me, or a little early.
Yep.
8 would be a perfect movie. 7:45, I can get there. We're always like, okay, are we going to eat dinner and rush, or are we going to stay up too late tonight? That is how movie watching goes.
Well, they just need to get you in and out. You know what I mean? They're not trying to be. You can just stay at home, Alex. When you start the movie at and we 8 do. That's why I've not seen
this Morbius trailer, is because we haven't seen a lot of movies in theaters.
You're not morbing out.
Because we're watching them on HBO. Okay, let me give you guys a summary for people who have not seen Out of Sight from 1998, directed by Steven Soderbergh. Here it is in 5 points. Number 1, George Clooney is the hottest and possibly most successful bank robber of all time, but neither of those things keep him from getting locked up when his getaway car doesn't start. But jail can't hold George. He breaks out by waiting until other prisoners do all of the work and then following them through their tunnel in a stolen guard's uniform and getting in a car that's parked in the parking lot out front of the prison, right there, just in that parking lot. Luckily,
it was planned. Okay.
Yeah. They just were like, we'll just park in the front parking lot, and then you can just get in the car, and we'll drive away. Luckily / unluckily for them, FBI agent Jennifer Lopez is doing some standard middle of the night paperwork delivery to that prison and is using the parking space George wanted to use. So instead, his buddy Ving Rhames kidnaps Jennifer and puts her in the trunk with George Clooney, and they spoon covered in mud in a moderately charming and only a little bit creepy way, and immediately fall in love. And that's because, if you know this about Jennifer Lopez, I guess, she's smart and cool and an FBI agent and looks like Jennifer Lopez, but it's just having a tough time with her love life. You know, she's just unlucky at love, man. She just can't find a good man.
She found Michael Keaton.
She found Michael Keaton, but she found doofus Michael Keaton, not like Batman Michael Keaton.
This is doofus Michael Keaton from Jackie Brown. Yeah.
Which, by the way, in terms of like one scene comic performances, Michael Keaton is so fucking dialed in. And I get like he already played this character a few years before, so he like has a baseline. But Michael Keaton, most of his dialogue in this movie is like no and yes. Like he's a lot of one-word answers, but they are so fucking funny. It's like, especially the line I referenced at the beginning when Miguel Ferrer is like, "You ever think about wearing a shirt that says undercover?" The pause Michael Keaton takes when he's like,
Yeah.
"No."
Yeah,
It's
so good.
It's so fucking dialed in.
Yeah.
And
It's very
such
good.
a good line. He's so fucking funny in that one scene.
Yeah, it's true.
Also
I
great
love
is
it.
that my wife did not realize he had ever played Batman, and when I told her that, she found it really hard to believe that guy
That guy was
appealed
Batman.
to a director as a Batman.
Yeah. It's
And
pretty weird.
It is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Also, quick tag. So, Karen Cisco, not FBI actually. She's a U.S. Marshal,
Yeah.
and there's a fun show also that Carla Gugino was in for like one season basically that focused on that character. It's a recurring character in Elmore Leonard stuff that I like.
Yeah, there's also great if you've ever watched The Incredible Justified, which is also an Elmore Leonard series based off one of his books. But that show is also about U.S. Marshals, and it's fucking incredible.
And you get the character to make a appearance for one episode also, which is real cool.
Yeah, Elmore Leonard is an incredible writer.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently he is. He did Get Shorty and which is stuff. Look at this guy.
Look at this guy.
Look at
this
that.
guy.
There's a lot of bad adaptations for his stuff, but like the good adaptations from like 310 to Yuma, Get Shorty, Jackie Brown, Justified. I mean, yeah, his good adaptations are just almost always legendary. He's just one of the best.
Well, I'm glad you explained that she was a U.S. Marshal because I thought she said she was in the FBI, and then it was just like she's just so freelance. She clearly just like no boss, no agenda. Like she works for law enforcement, but she just goes wherever she wants, does whatever she wants. She has a ton of money. She's just available. She's just floating. She's like a floater for the country as a law enforcement, and that makes way more sense. I mean, it still doesn't, but it makes more sense. Okay, so she decides since she's freelance, she can do whatever she wants. That she's going to help.
Do you know what U.S. Marshals do, Alex? Do you know what a marshal's job is? Like what their specific what U.S. Marshals do?
Hey, I'll mess up right now.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I mean, I would guess transporting prisoners.
That is a big part of it. Yes, U.S. Marshals' main jobs are transporting prisoners, prisoner recovery, and like helping with certain other crimes. But it's mostly
they're like bounty hunters.
Yeah, they're like
state-sponsored bounty. They're like Boba Fett's, like state Boba Fett.
But yeah,
U.S. Boba Fett is a much better name.
Like, U.S. Boba Fett.
No, but if Boba Fett worked for the man, I don't think he's cool anymore.
I mean, he did work for the man.
Dude, I don't think Boba Fett's cool already. Oh, take that. I'll take a stand.
Okay, that's fair.
He wears a bucket on his head. It looks stupid.
Boba Fett's arc is literally working for the man. He's working for Darth Vader. He falls into a hole, and then, as we all know from Book of Boba Fett, decides to get into local politics. That's what that show's about. He becomes a mayor essentially.
Where he meets the space version of Raylan Givens.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, another U.S. Marshal.
Yeah. They also are in charge of protecting judges.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
According to this. And they are law enforcement for the United States Antarctic program.
Yeah.
Someone's going to do it.
What she does in this movie is what U.S. Marshals do. Prisoner recovery is a huge part of it.
Some of the stuff that she does.
She delivers paperwork at midnight, and then she assigns herself to an FBI task force. And that is what she does in this movie.
Yeah. That's what Alex is talking about. The way that it's just kind of like, can I be on that gig? And they're like, I don't know.
To a different enforcement organization, and they're like, fine. Like she never reports to work. She does not have a boss or a supervisor. She has no assignments.
Right.
She gets the job driving her boyfriend across the country. Like she just makes her own hours. That's all I'm saying. She's freelance law enforcement.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she decides she's going to help investigate her boyfriend, and they fall further in love and then have sex in a hotel. And then George Clooney robs a rich guy's house with a couple of sociopaths, and Jennifer Lopez catches them and shoots him in the leg and chooses law over love. Or does she?
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
She doesn't. No, she does. It's not a twist ending. She clearly doesn't. I just want to say.
Well, but she could have not put him in this terrible situation where he has to break out of prison again, and where she is going to be the person whose name is on the transport list for the guy that she's been seeing who just escaped a second time under her custody. Like, if she just let him leave the house, this is so much easier
You're
for
way
her.
overthinking it. You're way overthinking.
And they're not going to escape on the transport. The idea is they get to know each other, then they escape from the prison they go to.
Oh, you think?
Together.
Right?
That sounds way harder. Why would you do that?
I thought because he's got the lighter now. I don't know how that's going to do it, but you give Samuel L. Jackson the lighter, and then
wait, all she had to do was not shoot him in the leg and let him leave. And then she's like, "I got to the house, and these guys were dead, and two of the robbers are missing."
Because
the police were already coming though. You can hear the sirens at that moment.
Yeah, and you're
so
missing.
He could just go in the backyard. It would be so easy.
You're missing.
It's cool this way.
Yeah, you're missing the point that this movie has one of the most like fist pumping awesome endings of any movie ever. It is so minus like the details and the minutia of it, just from a storytelling thing. Like I imagine this is the type of movie I was too young to see this in a theater, but I imagine like seeing this in a packed house and the ending scene when Samuel Jackson shows up. It's kind of dawned what's happened and why she wanted these two to be friends. It's just a fucking fist pumping, like, fuck yeah ending. It's so incredibly well done.
It's cool. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but if you don't care about that, it is very fun, and I liked that.
But this whole movie kind of has a little bit of a don't stop and think about it too much because we're just having fun here.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm summarizing it, and I want the people at home to get the full experience, which is it doesn't make a lot of sense, but don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
They bookend it with the it's good because they bookend it with the same intro song, the Isley Brothers It's Your Thing.
Yeah.
And so it's such a cool way to open it, right? And like the first 5 minutes, so many of these movies are so much of this movie is just I think it's how I defined cool basically in my teens, honestly.
Yeah, I mean
just a little bit criminal.
But I mean, like stylistically, the way it uses score, its cinematography, its use of still frames is really neat and something not a lot of movies take advantage of. Like I said, that early sort of color coding for each major city has its own sort of color tone. Which is really
we haven't even talked about yet is Steve Zahn, who's also in this movie and who I love and is so fun. And as far as like you mentioned, liking the Michael Keaton comedy moment, there are two absolutely perfect comedy moments in this movie. And the first one is Steve Zahn at the weightlifting bench where he gets up and as he's talking, he tries to lift weights and just goes down the dumbbells and they're all too heavy until he gets to a little tiny one. And they don't talk about it. They don't make a scene about it. He's just in the background, not being strong enough. And it's very, very good. And then the second, probably my favorite moment in this entire movie is where George Clooney's thinking about his girlfriend and they're in Ving Rhames' house and he goes, "Here, catch," and he tosses him a beer and it just goes right by him out the window. doesn't even try to catch it. And that is, and again, doesn't make it's not a big thing. It's not a plot point. It was just like, I'm a doofus. It's just two perfect doofus moments in the background.
It's great because like it's kind of a movie where when you establish like some aesthetics that give you like a kind of a cool look and feel, you get a lot of like leeway for a lot of like one like kind of like sexy and romantic moments, but also a lot of slapstick as well, right? And like you basically they gave it like a lot of flexibility of like this is a cool world that we're in that is, but it also you got a lot of flexibility basically. They can work on a lot of stuff.
I don't know if this is the first movie to do it, but in terms of like talk about changing tone, this movie has an incredible gag at the end with the stairs when the guy they set up that he slips a bunch of times.
My god.
Yeah. But like that gag, it's been stolen so much. I don't know if this was the first movie to do that. It's the oldest movie I can remember. Yeah. Oldest movie I can remember doing it. But it is so well set up. You see him slip like 6 times before that in the movie. And then when that happens and like the cut to George Clooney's face of just like what the fuck? Did that happen? Like it's such perfect timing and editing. It's great.
I want to shout out. So that actor is Keith Loneker, who unfortunately died a few years ago of cancer. But basically, this was his first role. He was a professional football player before this, for a few seasons with the Rams. And like I think he did a great job for the first time out in terms of being like a big physical presence. He pops up in like different stuff and like kind of bit parts.
How excited he is when he goes back to Don Cheadle and Isaiah Washington's character and is like, I found steaks. Like, the sincerity in which
they're
he
robbing
says
this
that
house.
with
Just
is
to catch
so
you up, they're
funny.
robbing a house that has like $5 million in diamonds in it somewhere, and he just finds a big freezer with a lot of really good steaks, and he is so stoked.
But he like tries. You can't see this on the podcast, but the way he's like, they're like,
you
this.
could if you're
he,
watching
like,
us on YouTube.com/Alex Falcone.
But the way he tries to justify it by showing how big the steaks are with his hands. It's just, it is such a fucking funny detail.
It's very funny. Yeah,
Steve Zahn is amazing. His like, if I hadn't smoked a joint right now, you never would have talked me into this. Like,
and Steve Zahn basically is a guy whose entire career is having a face that looks like he's about to be taken advantage of.
Yeah,
like he is the most perfect like sad sack comedy guy.
Yeah.
He's so good. I mean, I just saw him in White Lotus, where he's a great like kind of awkward dad, and I've been rewatching Treme recently, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, and he is so awesome in Treme as the guy who's like almost cool but always just a bit getting taken advantage of and just persevering, and he's so genuine seeming. I just really like Steve Zahn.
I you guys know about Steve Zahn's personal life, why he barely acts anymore?
No, I don't. I mind my own business.
What else? Steve Zahn just has a really great story of like, he was very, very prolific when we were growing up, right? Everything from like Reality Bites to this. He was in all movies when we were growing up. And then I think in like sometime in the 2000s, he married an heiress and they just live on a farm in Montana, and he works. If something comes along and he really wants to do it, he will. But yeah, he has a wife and a few kids, and they raise horses. And he just seems to like, he has all the money in the world he'll ever need. And so like when he wants to do, it's one of those actors like same thing with like Sam Neill kind of has the same thing. Like he has this huge farm in New Zealand that he lives in. So he doesn't pop up and stuff. But when he does pop up, it's because something has to really attract him to it. Like Steve Zahn doesn't need the work. So when he pops up in something like The White Lotus, it's because he obviously like really relates to this material and wants to be in this. So like he has this really great, he just picks roles like once every few years now. He I think it's in Montana. Him and his wife have a local like community theater program they sponsor, and he does plays in that with like a bunch of community theater actors every once in a while.
Yeah, they've been married since '94.
Yeah, just an incredible life that he has. Yeah, I'm so jealous.
She's like a best-selling author, which is pretty cool. Good job.
Just like I could not imagine. Just like I act when I want to. I do a lot of stuff in my community that I really like. But we're like super rich, so I don't need to do an HBO show. But
this is also a very funny thing about Montana, where Montana has like they got cowboys, they got like roughneck oil workers, and then they just have these like billionaires who are like, I just wanted to own half a thing, and so I bought half of Montana.
I think Yellowstone is messing it up for them. I think, if I'm understanding this right, is that Wyoming
for Steve Zahn in particular, or for rich people in general?
So yeah, wait, where is it? Sorry, Yellowstone. Am I getting this right? Where's that's Montana? The show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The show Yellowstone, not the
show
park.
Yellowstone.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Yellowstone.
Yeah, I've heard of the park.
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Sorry, the show Yellowstone is making, I think, like prices for stuff kind of like go up like a crazy amount to own a whole lot of things in Montana as a result.
Oh, that's funny. Is that a good show? Do we like
Yellowstone? I've never seen it.
Nobody's seen it.
Never seen it.
I think it's like sort of it's like I think it's one of those splits where it's like I think that versus Succession, where it's like that's like the red show, blue show kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Show, just like different audience.
And correction, also, he lives in Kentucky.
Okay.
Him and his wife have a huge property
doesn't really matter.
That's a different place.
That's a completely different place.
Yes.
It's not even. I don't even think they touch. I don't think they have any letters in common. Oh, they got a T.
So
they both have a T.
Alex,
same alphabet.
So good.
Same alphabet.
Okay.
All right. So Steve Zahn seems like a good dude.
Yeah.
Just as we're doing like the brief sort of stuff. I mean, like I want to just call it the Luis Guzman and Catherine Keener scene that I also liked a lot. Where it's like how do you like the how So Catherine Keener was originally up for the Jennifer Lopez role, but didn't get it. But she got cast as George Clooney's ex, who is like a I guess magician's assistant, out of work magician's assistant,
failed magician's assistant, which was very funny.
And like Luis Guzman was one of the escapees who is looking for George Clooney, and so tries to track him down to his ex-wife's place, and like he's really trying to figure out like how do they do the trick where they saw the woman in half. And I think that whole element with like that, just another fun moment. There's a lot of like really good dialogue. I think people like really it's a lot of people who are like in weird situations, but like very much like I feel like going about it in a semi-realistic way where they're still like kind of sidetracked on things that are important to them, even if it's not the most important things actually.
Yeah. And like, I mean, Jennifer Lopez is a great example of someone who like is, doesn't do a lot of these type of roles. Like you get something with like Hustlers every once in a while, but she has a lot of edge, but she did a lot of like, especially like kind of rom-com stuff. You didn't get to see her being like tough or edgy, but in this movie you really get a chance to sort of see everything she does. One, she can be incredibly sexy, incredibly tough, very, very funny. Her scenes with Dennis Ferreira, who plays her dad in this movie, so again, just pitch perfect. They just have very, very natural rapport. I love the fact that like you don't really see her talking to her dad about him, but she's clearly explained like, Dad, I met this criminal, I'm kind of in love with him. And like the thing at the end when he's like, why don't you go on this drive? You can pick up where your interlude or whatever left off, then throw him in the shit house. Like he doesn't judge his daughter for this. He like
as long as he's not married. That's what all he wants for his daughter's boyfriend is for him not to be married to somebody else.
Yeah, it's because
he's real shitty to Michael Keaton, who seems like an okay dude, but he's married, so that's a problem.
Yeah. The like tit for tat.
I think Jennifer Lopez is good in this movie. I do. I enjoyed her. I think my main feeling from this movie is that the action comedy movie is pretty good and has some very good comedy moments, and that there are some really good character things, and that the romance, the rom-com part, is just not very well written.
Yeah,
their meet cute is not very cute.
I just don't believe it. I don't believe that there's any reason for them to. Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what she is interested in any of this.
I almost feel like the movie sort of tries to suggest like this is how hot George Clooney is, that you just need to believe that this woman is just already in love with him. And I'm like, why? Like, why?
Well, is he really that hot? That's the only thing I buy is like the only reason this makes sense is because George Clooney is so hot. Can you imagine?
But I just mean that's what the movie is just saying. Look, Clooney? He's hot. That's it. But they're not. There's no other part written. And
I think it's just you have to understand. If you met George Clooney in person, this would happen. Period.
Well, dude, but this is an inconvenient person to love.
Yes.
For her. Yeah. Very inconvenient.
See,
like,
I don't think
you're saying he's that hot. You're saying he's that hot.
They've maybe seen some of the same movies, but not necessarily.
No, see, like, that's the stuff that like I think is why it works. Like the fact that their conversation is so like personal, and she obviously can't talk about movies like this with Michael Keaton's character. Right? Like there is something.
I think, Anthony, not ever. I want to be clear. I think this might be a bias that you have, given your personality and your wife's personality, that you think discussing favorite movies is deeply personal. I know that this is a thing that you care about more than most things, but man, if I was stuck in a car and someone was like, "Oh, I've seen a few movies," I would be like not that attracted to that.
I think. Yeah.
I don't mean, you're looking at me like this is insulting. I just mean you love movies so much that if George Clooney was spooning you and told you about a movie he liked, you'd be like, fuck yeah, George. We got a lot in common.
I don't think
it's not like they had established that these are two like movie lover
not
characters.
Movie buffs. They never talked about those movies ever again.
Part of their character. Yeah.
It's just supposed to, it's a rom-com where we're supposed to believe the romance is all from these slight times where they see each other and magic happens, and that is like the least persuasive kind of romance to me.
I think that's like,
and their scenes in the hotel are really dumbly written. Their conversation in the hotel is just so dumb, and it's so long, and it's so gauzy, and then they're like, I guess we go fuck now, and then they do that, and it's just so silly.
You know what I did at one point with this movie that let this not bother me. So because by the time we got to the hotel scene, I felt like I was kind of like, okay, I get it. I get, like, I'm not. Yeah. It wasn't that big of a deal to me anymore. At just some point, I had to decide like, okay, these characters are in love. Like I didn't believe it, and I didn't see it happen. But that happened, and the rest of the movie is going to be about that. The rest of the movie is not going to like circle back and
Right.
come up with a reason for them to be together. George Clooney's just that hot, I guess. He could walk in right now, cancel my podcast, change my life completely. I guess that's just how hot he is.
I think that's
you know
it.
What
He's
I mean?
an inconvenient amount of hot. And
I mean, he really is. I mean, I don't want to discount this.
I would
think
quit
that's
my
true.
job. Yeah. I would never talk to my parents again. I would move out somewhere with. I would just whatever it would take to be with George Clooney. I would do it.
I would almost certainly have to go to prison, which is her situation.
Yeah. Right.
Look, I don't know if I saw this for the first time now. I have no idea how it would read, but like at the time I saw this was very much like this felt very defining in terms of what romance was. Where it's like this is like for better or for worse, this feels like that surprising connection, I guess. And when I saw this as like, I guess like a 13, 14-year-old, that was very much what I was like hoping for and craving. And like, that's where it's like, yeah, this is, I got it. Yeah.
It just works for me. I think that unspoken chemistry is just there, right? Like it's that like just two people who see each other in any circumstances, these two would be attracted to each other, right? And I think it just works for me. I don't know. I'm not.
So I am like skeptical of the way it's written, but I will say I don't know if you guys remember this, but this happened like 2 months ago, where a guy broke out of prison with the help from a U.S. Marshal, and they like were on the lam for a few weeks, and then I think Blaze of Glory died. I think they both died. But it was like, and I was like, oh, this is a sweet romance. I really want to be into this. And then the guy had just like murdered some people, and it really takes some of the shine out of someone getting out of jail when you learn what they did before.
Well, I mean, one of the things about this movie that I think works is one, I really love that this movie has probably the most realistic bank robberies in terms of like how bank robberies actually work in real life.
Yeah.
Most
I agree with that.
bank robberies in real life are not like how they are in movies, right? So I have a good friend of mine, who I've not seen in a long time, but I'm sort of related to her. But her dad was a bank robber. He robbed like 50 banks when she was growing up, and how he didn't like do it exactly how George Clooney did it, but this is basically how he would do it, right? He would go in, single out a teller, give her a reason, not alert the whole bank. It was just a one-on-one with this teller. You're gonna give me that money in the drawer. I'm gonna leave, right? And he did like 30 to 50 banks up and down the West Coast while she was growing up, and then spent the rest of his life in prison.
Which is how these stories.
Yeah, it's how they end. Yeah. But like that's how I do love that element that this is how bank robberies actually are in real life 90% of the time. But then he's also like he's a criminal, but he has a very, very strict code that he goes on. Like the fact that he like never uses guns. He actively talks about like he's disgusted at the insinuation that he's gonna like assault her in the truck, right? Like it's a very interesting character for a career criminal that they really walk the line to make him likable.
And Ving Rhames is like also his moral compass, and Ving Rhames gets to get away with it and keep all the money, which is what you want to happen to the moral guy in a crime movie.
Great character trait that he calls his sister and
I love that. It's so
apologizes every crime he does, except the one time he called her before the crime, and that's how he ended up in prison. Yeah.
That's really
so funny.
So this story from last month. So they were on the lam for about 2 weeks. She was working at the prison. She escorted him to a doctor's appointment, and then the two of them just disappeared forever until they got cornered 2 weeks later. And then she took her own life, and he was on trial for capital murder charges before that because he's a piece of shit. And it's the idea of this Bonnie and Clyde romance breaking out of jail. I was like so ready to be into it, and then when I read about him, I was like, oh no, this guy sucks. I don't want this guy to be happy. I want this guy to be in jail, I think. I hate this guy.
I guess real life is just more complicated.
All right, the last thing I want to say about this movie before we move on is that I have definitely seen this movie before, and I just completely forgot about it. And after I watched it for this, I just kept forgetting about it. When people would ask what we watched this week, I would forget. And there's something about this movie that just feels like a little bit, like if I'm not looking at it in the moment, I can't remember it. There's something about it where it is out of my mind.
Yeah, that's
if
weird.
I'm not looking at out of sight, it is out of mind.
I got
Okay,
I think actually it's the least memorable title, honestly. I think is the issue.
It's because of your memory, the memory problems that you have.
Yes. Okay, that was not worth the walk. Okay, we have a couple more quick things we got to do. Next up, we need to get the official quality ranking of Out of Sight from 1998.
Ooh.
Where on our list of the 19 best movies of all time of season 5 are we going to place Out of Sight 1998? I'll give you some tops if you want. I think it's usually helpful to remind everybody.
Yeah.
So The Third Man is still the best movie of all time of season 5, followed by Edge of Tomorrow, Eternal Sunshine, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Batman, and Apollo 13, which is legitimately the best. And then Michael Clayton, since we're talking about George Clooney crime movies, we probably should include that on the list. And then after that, Battleship Potemkin, Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, In the Cut, and then around 11, 12 is where we have I think our subjective quality line, where Princess Diaries and Life Aquatic happen, and then it goes down from there.
Yeah.
So somewhere around 11, 12. So, okay, so Batman is in the top 5, and Michael Clayton is currently 7, and then the quality line is around 11 or 12. So where do you guys rank Out of Sight on this list?
I would put this right behind In the Cut on that list.
Okay, so you would put it just barely above the quality line.
Yeah, I think all of the movies, I think the quality gap from like everything up until In the Cut are all bangers, all great classic movies. I don't think there's a single bad movie in that list. And then I think Princess Diaries, Life Aquatic, Cable Guy are all right, like to middling, and then it gets bad. But I do think that it's not like I'm not pitting this.
So this is better than all the middling movies, but it's not as good as the good movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's as good, but I just think the list kind of, I'm not going to put it above like In the Cut or anything, which I think a lot of the stuff above that.
I ignore In the Cut's placement because it is non-canonical.
Yeah.
It's non-canonical.
I wasn't there that episode.
I think I would put this right below Batman. Is like where I would put it. I liked it better than Michael Clayton. I don't like it better than In the Cut, but In the Cut is number 1 on my own personal list of all these films. So I do not.
So you put right after Batman?
I'd put it, right below Batman on the list.
Above Apollo 13.
Above Apollo 13. Oh, is that really just right? I'm not doing that bit on purpose this week. I just want you to know. I'm glad, even on an instinctual level.
Yeah.
Even on an instinctual level, I'm doing it.
Ezra, where do you put it?
It's 4. It's above.
Above Batman.
Above
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah. This is very much like I picked this because I love this. So.
Wow. Okay. So I'm gonna say, the list is reads a little different to me. I do think In the Cut's in the weirdest place, but I also didn't enjoy it while it was happening. But I liked this more than Battleship Potemkin. I do think this should settle near Michael Clayton because they are similar. I think
outside of the lead, they're really not that similar. It's weird that
they're just George Clooney being a charming criminal. That's very similar.
He's not a criminal in Michael Clayton.
Totally,
he's not.
Different.
He's not a criminal in Michael Clayton. How dare? What are you talking about? He does bad stuff.
He's a fixer, but it's not
criminal.
Different.
That's not what a criminal is.
The
also,
person
he
does
gets to be all
stuff.
He's more charming and Out of Sight. I like him. I actually don't really like him in general, but I do like him if he's in a Steven Soderbergh movie. I think the worlds that he makes for George Clooney are like perfect worlds for him to inhabit.
Well, so I think this deserves to be 8th. I say I put it behind Michael Clayton, but ahead of Battleship Potemkin, which gives us a total score of 29, an average score of 7.25, which means I get my wish. And Out of Sight is the new 8th place movie ahead of Battleship Potemkin and behind Michael Clayton. So
it's a good movie.
This is where it goes.
It's a very impressive film.
Okay. I ranked it higher than you, but I like it less than you. That's the weird thing about this list.
Sometimes.
Is you were like, man, this movie fucking rules. It's the worst good movie we've seen. And I was like, man, I don't like this that much, but it's better than so many of the other things.
But this is a ranked list, so you can never tell. Like, I think all that says is that Anthony's just overall more positive about the list as a whole.
Yes,
above it.
Yes, that's exactly right.
There's a lot of great movies on this goddamn list.
I mean, I do feel
like In the Cut.
Yeah.
I do feel like the top 5, 6 are like legitimately great movies, and then there's a chunk that's like we kind of disagree about them, and then there's a chunk that like we agree that these are good, we agree that these are bad, and that we disagree on these, and that's how the list should be for all of us.
Of course.
Top 5, you could recommend that to most people, right? And like the next 5, like or like some after that, it's like, well, this is look at me, your mileage may vary.
Yeah, except for Apollo 13, which is the most universally beloved film of all time. I think other people would be like, yeah, there's some stuff in here. Okay, now we have to pick our next film. So Anthony went, then Ezra. That leaves Hunter in the 3rd position for this round 5.
Yeah.
Hunter, what is your 5th pick, your round 5 pick for season 5?
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion off show.
I do feel like this one's had the most back channel negotiating of any episode so far.
There's been a lot, and I have told both Alex and Ezra that I'm going with them, and I've talked to them as if we are for sure in cahoots, and this is when you will be finding out where my loyalties truly lie.
Let's pull back the curtain and tell everybody what the cahoots are. So just so if you're not keeping up, so Ezra picked last and picked this movie to set himself up for his choice, the most unbearable movie that anyone has ever picked for the show. Read it and weep. Avengers Endgame
cannot be, but okay. And I talked with Hunter. I think before making the Out of Sight
that's
pick,
true.
I talked with Hunter, and he said in the discourse, I'm like, hell yeah.
But also,
I did exactly
Hunter,
say that
in a back channel discussion. Asked me what I was interested in because I'm next. And Hunter, here's Hunter's thing. Hunter, it seems like, is point motivated, which he hasn't been always. But currently, Hunter is in the lead, tied in the lead with me. So I don't know why you've become so desperate to get points, but we're at a pretty tight grouping right now. So you want to pull ahead. You want to get some points. But also Hunter's motivation, as far as I can tell, is Hunter would like to watch more movies filmed in Hong Kong. And so getting to the Hong Kong direction is an important thing for you.
Right, which Avengers, I want to say for the record, Avengers does get us there.
It gets you there
pretty easily.
I will say my interest in this is not about scoring points for me. My interest is purely, I do not want to watch Avengers Endgame, and I will do anything possible to avoid that happening.
I kind of love it. Love that.
I mean, I'm close to saying I will not watch this movie. Like, I'm pretty close to saying if you pick this movie, I will do the episode and will not watch the movie. I hate it so much.
See, you got to stop saying stuff like that because that's going to make me want to make you watch it. You know what I mean? Like you got to try and be a little boring about it. Like, and just be like, just be like kind of annoying. But that sounds exciting. You not watching it. So basically, I mean, we've had this, I would say, long era on this show of cooperation, you know, and I think symbolically this moment is about whether that era continues or if we kind of direct into a more competitive state. Because Alex is here saying
have been the era of good feelings on this podcast.
Yeah. And the thing is, Alex is saying absolutely will not watch the target movie that Ezra has picked, which I think is an interesting conflict. But I have all the power, right?
A little rude, right? A little rude.
It's a little rude. It's a little rude.
He knew this when he picked it. I'm not. This is not arbitrary. He picked it knowing full well that I cannot stand the Marvel world and that this is the most Marvel bullshit Marvel that's ever Marveled. It's so overwhelmingly bullshitty and boring, and it's going to ruin 2 nights of my life because it's too long for us to watch in one sitting.
And if we go the path to the Hong Kong cinema stuff, we have to watch another Marvel movie after Avengers Endgame is another aspect.
And I'm also genuinely excited. So this is the change that I've made. Once I got my first movie, once I actually scored and I was like not embarrassed on the scoreboard, my opinion of what I want to do on this season has changed from trying to win to I would like to watch good movies because I don't like when my Tuesday night is ruined.
Oh, you mean the game I've been playing this entire season so far?
Yeah, Anthony's game?
Anthony, you playing that game with a side of hurting me strategically, and I'm still mad about that. But yeah, I would just like to watch more good movies. And my secondary choice now is I would like to watch fewer masculine bullshit movies because this season so far, out of 19 movies, there's been maybe 6 women in the whole thing. And our show doesn't pass this Bechdel test. And I feel like we should occasionally watch a movie with women in it. And so the idea of Avengers, which is
Avengers Endgame has a whole montage at the end when all the women come together. You want heroic stuff. What do you? Exactly what you're asking for.
Going into the Avengers,
going
into Marvel is the last thing that we need to do for the masculine bullshit of this season.
A bunch of women who have never spoken to each other in any of the
if they weren't in the same room at any point,
get together and kick. What could you want more for girl power? Am I right?
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. You're saying exactly what it is.
I dragged this out to make it exciting, and now I want to know. Hunter.
Okay.
You've given some hints, but I want to know what's happening. Who are you abusing? Who did you lie to?
So I feel like my two paths are kind of the hero's path with Ezra and everything continues. Okay. Or I think the villain's path with Alex.
What? How am I the villain?
You're the reason it's villainous is because I've already told Ezra that I am picking Avengers Endgame before Ezra even picked.
I will say, when you asked me if I wanted to work with you, I did not know you were hurting Ezra, and it would have been a lot harder for me to be part of that.
Well, good. I wanted to create this situation because it's time for this segment to be fun again. Okay? And I'm about to make it fun. So I'm about to announce my pick right now. We are traveling away from Out of Sight via the actor Don Cheadle. Now, where are we going? Oh, I haven't said the movie yet. We're traveling via Don Cheadle. I told you both that we'll be traveling to a film via Don Cheadle. Okay? And the movie we will be watching is Rush Hour 2. I've picked the villain's path. Me and Alex. It's not about working together anymore. It's not about points. This is a vicious game.
Can we pause for a quick second?
Yeah.
I have a power card that I'd like to play.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Who is Don Cheadle in Rush Hour 2?
He plays a character named
sorry.
Kenny.
Rush Hour 2, I don't know.
Rush Hour 2.
Okay.
Rush Hour 2, he plays Kenny. I don't know what that means.
I actually do like Rush Hour 2, all right.
I haven't seen that movie since.
More action boys, but
yeah. So, well, I mean,
but I want to point something out before you try and ruin this. The next film after this, besides the main character who is a man, all of the other cast members are women, and there's a lot of women in it. So
yeah, and I mean, there's nothing more supporting women than watching a movie by Brett Ratner, right? I mean, someone who's very famous and notorious for being bored towards women, right?
These my two choices were just the Don Cheadle gate, okay, and it was either Avengers Endgame or Rush Hour 2. All right,
it's the only two movies that Don Cheadle has been in other than Out of Sight.
Right.
All right, Ezra, what are you gonna do?
So what are you playing?
So this is trade places with another player in the turn order. I would like to trade places with Hunter.
Well, so
you just get to go again? That doesn't make sense.
No, wait.
I don't know how to resolve this.
Yes, how do we resolve this? I do feel like if you had said this before he picked, you would be next. But if he's made a pick and you trade places with him,
my pick's already happened.
Then you're just second and third in the past, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. Is that how, do you not read this as him making an official pick?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I...
Well, this is an issue of timing windows is basically what's happened. So when do we read the effect as happening? Is this when Hunter casts his vote or after Hunter casts his vote is really the discussion.
So I think what's interesting about this, Ezra, is that you could trade places with me.
Yes,
and then
that would be the play.
But you can't go back through Don Cheadle. So is there a second person in Rush Hour 2 that is also in Avengers Endgame?
Let me look at Rush Hour 2. And see if I can get to.
But then when does Alex get a turn? This doesn't make any sense.
In round 5. He's canceling me. He gets 2 turns, and I get no turns in round 5.
That's not the intent. That's not the rules.
This is the great thing about our power cards, Hunter, is that they are not fact checked. They're not.
Yeah, there was no designer for them, so there's no intent.
Anything somebody tweeted at me, I put literally straight into the machine.
And you didn't even read it once, did you?
I mean, I read some of them on the air, but I don't know. So I mean, it's hard to say. But I'm not sure. I wonder if he's already gone.
So, yeah, is it in the pick? Does it I mean, here's the thing. Like, if I know that I'm going to lock it in, I guess at that moment. Well, I don't know.
Here's why I actually like I like the interpretation that it's outside the time window, because it gives you the gamble where you could have traded places with him to ensure this, but you didn't know he had turned heel at that point. So you had to wait until he decided, to know whether you're going to do it. And
which
so
is
that
why I
means
played it the way I played it.
has
You know,
to
I'm
already
always
been
about
picked.
the window, you know? Lay it, play it is something that will make some people listening to the show laugh, okay? I just said that.
Well, this is
I
the
know
most-
for a fact some people are laughing.
This is the part of the show that's the most for your crossover audience with your other show. And so
Yeah.
I think if that's how they would normally, if you would interpret that in a Twilight Imperium way.
Right. Lay it, play it wise. I just broke a non-binding deal and it's too late to do anything about it. Now I think you could switch with Alex. I think it's dirty that the card lets you go pick 2 movies, because you could also just use this. You just use this to get 2. Why doesn't it just say pick 2 movies in a row? Because that's how I can.
All right,
read
I'll
it.
add that to the power cards list.
Well, then I think we're doing it. I'm going to play a different power card then.
Yeah, play a different one. Play one that might make more sense for the situation.
Okay, guys, it's Spaghetti Night, and I am now throwing out the movie. So it's Spaghetti Night can only be played after another player has chosen the film. Their choice is now void. And they must pick a film directed by
Sergio Leone. So, Hunter,
yes.
you have just lost Don Cheadle to Rush Hour.
Okay, but oh no. All
Power
right.
card negated.
As Hunter,
okay, and now
Hunter, you need to pick Once Upon a Time in the West.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm now like to trade places with Hunter.
So
and Don Cheadle is now up for grabs.
Wait, no, but if you trade places with me,
you
have
already
to pick
played
a Sergio
Spaghetti
Leone
card.
movie.
You have to pick Sergio Leone. Are you serious?
That's you.
If you trade places with him, it's still Spaghetti Night.
Yeah.
Surely.
Does it?
Yes, it's still Spaghetti Night.
Oh my God, Ezra.
I like this idea, Ezra, but you can trade places with him, and then you get to pick the you get to pick the Spaghetti Night movie. But
all right, you know what? I'll leave this on there. Hunter, you pick your Spaghetti Night.
Wait, before you do this, I think in order to make this actually Spaghetti Night, we need something. All right, now it's Spaghetti Night.
Okay. Thank you. Well then it turns out I could yeah, go ahead. Whatever.
How are you going to make this better or worse, Anthony?
I think especially because Alex, talks about how he doesn't have a lot of time to watch movies. He doesn't, and I think Sergio Leone will really. I think Alex just needs to see a really long movie to appreciate what a long movie can do. So
I do like this.
I cannot suggest enough. One of my favorite movies of all time, one of the greatest of this director's career, is the fabulous 166 minutes long Once Upon a Time in the West.
Well, so this is an interesting
check
pick
my
for me.
Letterboxd. It's on my Letterboxd as one of my favorite films. It's my
Yes, and you may recall it's also a movie that I watched last year. So do I even have to rewatch the whole thing, or is it soon enough after?
Absolutely.
I quite enjoyed Once Upon a Time in the West. It'll be weird to watch it this soon after, but I liked that movie a lot.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is also almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So I will just say, if we're like trying to influence for that reason alone, Hunter.
Yeah.
I have been wanting to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I have watched Once Upon a Time in the West. I have not seen it, and what else is in his?
Well, there's the Man with No Name trilogy, right? So there's A Fistful of
Let's
Dollars.
watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's what I would rather. It's been longer since I've seen that one. And I want to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking about that final sequence. It's so fun. It's so
I've also not seen Fistful of Dollars. In fact, I think the only thing I've seen is Good, Bad, and the Ugly. So, the only thing I've seen is Once Upon a Time in the West. So yeah, let's watch Good, Bad, and Ugly.
You got to see that one. We're gonna see it. All right, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the new pick.
It's Spaghetti Night.
It's spaghetti night. And Ezra, now that this played out this way, I'm sure we could just like let bygones be bygones and go back to cooperating.
Is that where you think this is going?
Why not? I was listen. Alex was corrupting me. I don't want to I'm not a villain here. I just tried to spice the game up a little bit.
Anthony, I need your opinion here while they fight.
We're not fighting. We're besties. We're good now.
Are we going to be able to get out of Good, Bad, and Ugly? Where are we going to be able to go with this, Anthony?
I mean, Clint Eastwood had a quite sizable career.
Okay.
You have the bad guy, Lee Vance. No, that's not his name. But
Lee Cleef.
Lee
Van Cleef.
Lee Van Cleef. He's in, a bunch of stuff, including like we could go from like Escape from New York from here or something like that. A lot of great movies.
We're definitely very far from the Chinese film industry in general now.
But yeah,
huge bummer for me.
I mean, you can with Clint Eastwood, you can literally get to any decade between 1950 and literally last year because he's
we're also just since Ezra reminded me that we have new power cards from last week, and I have a power card that is extremely broad, and I'm just going to tell you guys what it is just because I'm so bad at this, but I get to move to any movie that was shot with the same aspect ratio and type of film as the originating film. So I don't know if that would get me to China, Hunter. Maybe you can help me with that.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. That's a broken card.
I mean, most of the cards are broken. That's part of the fun. We just
that one's really broken.
Well, wait, actually, this one, So Good, the Bad, and Ugly was shot in 2.35.
2.35. Well, we could. I'll figure this out. This will be
that out there so that someone else can help because I think we're going to be able to, if not this one later. So that'll be fun. Okay, excellent work, you guys. Good havoc. I love when this happens.
Yeah. I like that not too many power cards were played. Last time we played them all at once, and I'm glad it was just this one. And Ezra, I think that other one you've got, you should play it. You know what would really ruin it for us? Is if you play it once the new order is established.
Yeah.
So that you can ruin, if me and Alex are going to be working together, we're obviously going to want to be 1 or 2 in the next thing. And now you can perfectly ruin that.
Yeah. So this is Hunter's pick. That means I'm last next week, the last for round 5, which means we're going to do a redraw, which means I could potentially go twice in a row. Although I've never been first before. So why would it start now? Or if Hunter gets it, we could work together. So anybody who wants to partner with me as a chance to go next week is an option. I'm very excited to watch Good, Mad, and the Ugly. This worked out well. It's too long, but at least it's not going to ruin 2 nights. It'll be a fun 2 nights.
Here's the problem, Alex. If you're just taking your medicine, like you would not have to worry about Endgame. I'm going to keep on trying to get after it. So it's this is not a smart plan on your side.
It might be the most gettable movie to get to ever, but that's why I think it's fun, Ezra, if we try and stop you from getting there. Do you understand my motivation there? It's like you will get it eventually. I know you will. There's no way.
I also think
There's no way you won't get it.
There might be a time when I'm either like going to be absent and you guys have to do an episode without me, or maybe.
Wait.
Nah, you're watching it, Alex. I mean, real talk, like not in the game anymore. You are definitely watching.
Maybe there's a way that it's worth it in a deal for me that I get something that I actually really want out of it.
Yeah.
Or
Alex,
had joy.
You know what movie was all shot in 2.35?
What?
Endgame.
Oh God, it was.
You know directly now.
Okay, well, probably not going to do that. Here's what I'll do, Ezra. Actually, I'll make you an offer.
Yeah.
I'll make this one public. We can discuss it off the air, but I'll make you an offer. If I can move via my power card to watch Endgame after this, I will do that in exchange for all 5 of the points, and I get to pick your next movie.
What? That's ridiculous. That's not a good deal. Don't take that deal, Ezra. Come
You'll
on.
be able to get to it way easier.
Well, I guess, we'll have to see.
Just wanted to put it out there. Okay, you guys.
Endgame's like the easiest movie to get to. That's like the easiest pick in this whole game has been Endgame. Come on.
You can honestly probably get to it from the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There's so many people.
I haven't looked yet, but you probably can.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap on that. It's been a long episode already, but we have one more thing we got to do. Please stick around while we thank Destiny. All right, you guys, we have a new meat buddy that we need to thank, and new meat buddy, but a person who's been around for a long time helping support our show. You guys may remember Destiny and Destiny's family. I think we played a clip of Destiny's dad talking about a movie he was in Seattle. We've done Destiny sponsored episodes for at least 2 of her children, possibly both. I don't know if there's other children lying around. Destiny's sponsored a show, an episode for themselves. There's a lot. Destiny's been very good to us over the years, but has now joined the Patreon as well. And Destiny says this, I had thought about signing up several times. I did the sponsorships instead. But when you had Guilt Amnesty, I thought about jumping on that. And then I was like, no, because I don't feel guilt. So I don't need to feel guilty anyway. I've done several sponsorships. I don't need amnesty from anything, damn it. If anything, you should feel guilty for giving one of my kids questionable family planning advice last time.
Oh, no.
And I don't remember that, but it does sound like us. Right?
Especially
I don't remember what
Alex.
we said, but it
Sounds
definitely sounds like us. So what I love about this, because of course we've wrapped up Double Guilt May and we're into June, which we haven't quite figured out. But this came in just at the end of May, so this is still on Double Guilt, but the guilt is on us. That's what's it's yet again the double guilt has backfired. No one's feeling guilty but us. All of May. I think we're gonna make June ennui June. That's what I'm gonna do. June we. So for the rest of June, if you donate to the show, you have to feel about it.
Yeah.
That's what if you donate for this month and this month only, we will allow you to feel so that's June we. So okay, so continuing on with Destiny. You probably don't know this about me, but I own a yarn shop and teach knitting and design knitting patterns.
Oh.
It was actually on one of my knitting forums that your podcast was originally recommended to me years ago, which is another. You ever find out you have captive markets you don't realize? You know we were killing it in the knitting game, you guys?
That makes sense. Because I don't know which one we would have been otherwise. So it must have been that.
Knitting is a fantastic movie watching activity.
She's really, really good at knitting. She's made a bunch of beautiful things and hangs out on knitting forums all the time and has never once brought up a show. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know how much.
She's probably the one who promoted it, but no.
No. She would never. She's never listened to this. God, no. She's got way better things to do with her time.
Well, she does. This does actually make sense with your wife a lot because, as Destiny says, knitting is a fantastic movie watching activity.
Yes,
and knitters are always asking each other what else to watch next. Tell Anthony and Hunter that a lot of knitters are also gamers.
Whoa.
Interesting. It seems hard because you'd have, although it's true with Heather, but it doesn't seem like you'd either need your thumbs for one or the other thing.
Well, I don't think they're saying at the same time.
Oh, okay. It's just like they just got good manual dexterity. Okay. So what I want more than anything in the world is to teach any or all of you to knit. But since that's probably not possible, I'll take a pep talk. So here's what I have in our emails with Destiny. I will be in Seattle at some point. In fact, I think I will be in Seattle at the end of the summer doing one night only at Club Comedy in Seattle. So more on that to follow. But next time I'm in Seattle doing some stand-up, I'm going to bring a camera and I'm going to make a little movie of Destiny teaching me to knit at her knitting shop. So I do this little occasional web series called Alex Tries, and sometimes it's big things, but I've never tried knitting. So I think I'm just going to let Destiny teach me to knit, make a little TikTok about it. That'll be a separate thing. But for this moment only, pep talk, just for the becoming a Patreon, a meat buddy. So Destiny would like a pep talk. Running a small business is really hard, especially these days, and I could use a little cheer. So let's do a quick small business pep talk in the time of inflation and post-COVID. I guess maybe Anthony, did knitting have a good run during COVID? It probably did, right?
I absolutely think so. Yeah, my wife. And so that's what I was gonna say. Is like one of the best things I would imagine about working. I know I can't even imagine how tough this has been for you, Destiny, especially going through the last few years with COVID. It's hard for any small business. But if there's one thing I have learned from my wife and her community of knitting friends, is that owning a knitting and sort of like craft store like that, you're going to have just customers who come in right randomly. But what you're in a field that has built-in community to it.
Mm-hmm.
So over COVID, one of the things my wife did was she has her and her friends had the knitting stores they like, and they were going to fucking support them, rain or shine. The stores are not going to be victims of COVID. Right?
Yes.
So there was a lot of great stuff, especially, I don't know if this, imagine Seattle's not too different from Portland in terms of this, but over COVID, my wife and I, we went on a bunch of yarn crawls. It's something all the knitting stores got together and did.
Oh, cool.
They had things. So if you stopped by each one of them, you would get something. You could fill out like a bingo code. Each one of them had prizes from vendors and stuff like that. But yeah, so what I really got to notice doing these things was I got to see so many stores that people were much closer to the staff than they are at normal stores, the customer and the employees. There's like a fanaticism and people really wanting to support those companies. So I would say remember that I'm sure right now, Destiny, you're thinking of customers who come in all the time that you've built a relationship with. You watch them come in, maybe, amateurs who really couldn't knit very well at all, and are seeing them, a few years later making beautiful things. And it's got to be an incredibly satisfying, as somebody who's worked in retail a lot, and doesn't have those kind of experiences with customers, because the type of retail I have just doesn't foster that type of experience. So I would say, like, definitely during the hard times, remember that. Remember, like, this is not most companies, especially in retail I've worked in, all you really do is send out eventual trash, right? Like, everything you sell will eventually just be trashed and thrown away, and it's disposable and cheap. But what you do is you send out stuff to be made, from maybe junky stuff to possibly heirloom quality items, and that's like a fucking cool thing to be involved in and do for a living. So I would say take solace. I'm sure you already know this. You don't need me to explain this to you, but that's like a very cool thing, and I'm jealous of people who get to work and own experiences like that.
This is a little different from being a pep talk, but I obviously this is something that Destiny knows, but I think when you are inside stuff, sometimes you forget things that seem really cool because they're every day for you. So I do think that's a really helpful thing to remember, is just like what a cool thing that is. And not to say like you need to appreciate better, whatever. But like, yeah, this is a cool thing, and you might be so close to it you forget that you get to do all of this cool shit when other people have to do lamer things.
Yeah.
I did find, because she mentioned, Destiny mentioned this in the New York Times article, actually, an early pandemic, about her knitting group's online survival during lockdown. So clearly is aware of like how powerful this local
Think
this
about
thing could be.
how popular making bread was, and knitting is way more permanent than that. I mean, I imagine knitting was huge for
seriously.
COVID
Bread, it's like a day or two, and it gets worse so fast.
Yeah.
Bread gets worse shockingly fast.
It's like dumb for us to make bread, because like it's like you just buy bread at the store, but like I can knit you, like a cool hat you can't get anywhere. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so I can buy hats. I just can't have one that you made with your style. And that's true of bread too. Like I could make you some terrible bread that was really bad in a bunch of interesting ways you've never bought before. So I could just make wrong bread. Also, you could wear my bread as a hat.
I think we're off topic.
We have gotten a little far off. I will say, if I sound a little distracted, because I wanted to make sure I actually had this name, but it's Seattle Yarn is the name of her company. So
I really hope you don't listen to this podcast while you're running the shop, like for customers to hear. That would be my piece of advice: is listen to us on your own time.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I just got very scoldy very fast.
No.
But I'm being a retail manager, Anthony. That you're like, put your phones away. You're on the floor.
No.
There's no way Destiny's doing that. So Destiny's getting to have that experience where you're being told something. And you're like, I
know. I'm sure you're good. We say a lot of wild shit, and I think it's because people are consenting and they listen to us for fun. But if you're just if you end up going to a knitting store because you need a new pattern and you have to hear my dumb ass talking, I think that would be a bummer. I would not like that.
That would be a bummer. I will say I'm not like a super patient person, and I don't have a lot of downtime currently. But what I do have is I desperately need to do something with my hands while I'm watching TV. I can't just sit there. And so like I got really into lock picking.
You don't just sit there with your hands at your sides or in your lap?
I can't. Would never be able to do it. So I'm always spinning a pen. That's my main thing that I've been doing since I was in high school. Mm-hmm. But I got like into lock picking a few months ago as just a thing to have a lock and two picks sitting by the TV. So when I'm watching TV, I can just pick a lock and then close it and then pick it and then close it.
This is like lock picking that produces a hat, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This does look like I'm lock picking a hat, and I do. So I don't know. I'm kind of buying this. I'm kind of interested in it.
So Destiny, I'm just hanging out on your Yelp page right now, and your store looks really, beautifully organized. It looks like really, really soft, pretty colors there on all the yarns.
Website is so good. This is such a good website. Yeah. I love this website.
And it makes me want to yarn. It makes me want to knit. I like the section of fiber you have. I think there's a whole thing called Notions, which is a relevant. Notions are like I don't even know what a Notion is. I'm looking at a bunch of guys. What is a Notion? It has like tape measures.
I don't even know what a Notion is. I'm looking at a bunch of
all Notions. Euclid wash. What is the category of things that includes this? Needles and wash in it. Those are all Notions.
These are just. I don't understand, Ezra. What are you confused by? These are all just notions. Like, have you ever had a Notion before?
Oh, I'm so glad we were perusing this website. So this episode, we're recording this on the 9th. It's probably going to come out on the 10th. This Saturday, June 11th, 2022, is Worldwide Knit in Public Day, a celebration of knitting and an opportunity to commune with other knitters. And SeattleYarn.com has, of course, a Knit in Public Day bingo.
Perfect.
Although I will say, as far as bingo goes, a lot of these are in your control.
Buy some Notions. That's easy, man. Everything's a Notion.
Buy a Notion. I feel like bingo is a lot easier if you get to make your own. It's like, I'd like to be 21. Bingo. A little unfair. But if you do the bingo card, you can get entered into a drawing at Seattle Yarn. Anyway, and also, Anthony, it looks like clearly they've been doing some yarn crawls as well up in Seattle, as you'd expected. So I guess this is like, everybody's having a hard time, and every small business owner is having a hard time. And I guess I want to just echo what Anthony said, which is like, at least you're having a bad time surrounded by good people and cool things, because a lot of small business owners are doing it without that. So, and I do think by picking that and building community, you probably have helped yourself weather some of these storms. I don't know. I guess a pep talk is like, you're doing good, bud.
Yeah, and
good, bud.
Like I said, I mean, one of the things that has been one of the constant sense of joy over the last like 10 years is watching my wife go from learning to knit, making very rough socks for me over the first few months, making like a kind of a not great scarf, and like really learning to this. Now she makes a sizable amount of chains, doing commissions on the sides, and is like every baby shower or whatever we go to, people are just so excited to see what my wife knits for them, and like watching her go from like cute and like really working hard to making like incredibly high quality stuff. Like I have several sweaters that she has knit me that I fucking adore, and every time I wear them out, people are like, "Where'd you get that?" And I tell them my wife made it, they like can't believe me, and it's just like, it's such a delight, and it's one of my favorite things in my life is to have that. So like, imagine just seeing that every day with customers has to be awesome, you know?
I love that. I will just say the last thing we have to do, because this is it's a standard pep talk for a new meat buddy. Have some more kids. That's my main thing. That if you take away one thing from this, it's, I think, like 6 more kids is the right number of kids. Because especially if you're having a small business issue, one thing I remember from the 1700s, you have more kids, they work the farm, right? It's very affordable.
Oh,
they can help do
here's my issue, though. I feel like more kids might put it into perspective. Why are you donating to this podcast? I have mouths to feed. So maybe
you're right.
More kids. Maybe chill way. The fact that you have the disposable income now to give us money, to me, just you have the perfect amount of family right now. That's a good spot.
There's plenty of time to listen to this podcast before you decide to have more kids, and then once you're done with the podcast, then you can be like, all right, now I'm ready. You know what I mean? So just like listen to the podcast, and then when you're done with it, when you're tired of us, then it's time to have more kids, and that's how we should factor into our listeners' lives.
I mean, I think the main thing the audience
knit little sweaters for your own baby shower.
Not just Destiny, but I think everyone in general should remember that some of us have kids, so we really need this money. So like.
Not that many of us have kids, to be clear, but enough of us.
But don't do that, Alex.
I'm just helping.
Be cool.
I mean,
be cool. All right,
be cool.
Some
Alex.
of us have kids.
Right, there's a lot of kids to feed.
Yeah,
okay?
Some of us have habits. All right, some of us have debts. Some of us we need that cash to keep.
Yeah, we have more gambling problems than
video
children,
games.
sure.
Okay, video games are expensive. All right, I gotta buy them.
They are so expensive.
So expensive.
All right. Well, we have to go. Thank you so much for donating, Destiny. And I just wanted to give you a little bad family planning advice at the end there. But we really appreciate you donating to the show and sticking with us for all these years. And I hope you got a lot of good knitting done today while you were listening to this. And I look forward to someday learning what's the smallest thing you can make, Anthony? Could I learn how to make a ring? What do you knit like an afternoon?
Like a cozy? I've seen my wife tone out like full gloves in like a sitting, or like a baby shirt in a sitting.
This would be my first try. So
I
it's
think
like
something like a cozy, like a drink cozy, or like a fabric coaster, just literally a square. I think if you made a square, that'd be a good place to start.
Cool.
You know,
I mean, I'm sure Destiny knows. She teaches people before, but all right. We have to get going. Thank you so much for donating. If you guys want to donate and join Destiny and get the weirdest pep talk and small business advertisement, go to Metreon.com. And we really appreciate everybody who donates to the show. Thank you so much for sticking with us for this long ass episode. This is a spaghetti western of an episode. This was like nearly 3 hours. We will be back with you next week talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, all three at the same time. And bonus, we're gonna play Marry Fuck Kill with those three people. I don't know.
I'm definitely fucking Tuco.
Okay, sure. Perfect. And I don't know what that means. Yeah, if you have any feedback for us, send us an email, podcast@every-week.com. Don't forget, you can apply for the Teeny Tiny Grant by going to teenytinygrant.org and get $11, or be eligible. We're not going to be able to get them to everybody, but you could apply to get $11 to do something nice for somebody else, not $10 for yourself, like a piggy snookadook would. This is just for you to do something nice to somebody else. So teenytinygrant.org. And that was it. There was something else I was going to say. I forgot. Thanks for being here, Anthony.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Hunter, good hanging out with you.
Yeah, hey, thank you.
And Ezra, great work today.
Here's to the chaos.
We'll talk to everybody next week. All right, bye.
Bye.